Well, good afternoon. We don't actually have any funky music for this new show of ours. Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy podcast. But we are reunited, lads. Me,
absolutely.
And right.
Yeah, woohoo! Look at it. What's going on with the colour of your face? It's the same colour as your hat.
I know, because you inspired me because you said, "Oh, there's a touch-up thing," and I slid that baby all the way. It's 10:30 p.m.
This is all natural. This is all natural, mate.
So is this?
For those of you tuning in, this is coming live on Rise Borough channel and on NUFC Matters. And the reason that we're doing this is because the three of us did a North East Football breakfast show last year. For the full season. It was great, really good to do. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great opportunity given to us by a mutual friend of ours. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen this season. And we only found that out over the last couple of weeks. And that was a bit of a shock to us. So over the last 4 days, we decided to maybe give this a try and do one a week. If there's a thirst for it across the world and across the Northeast in particular, to do a Northeast football show. So here we are, gentlemen. I guess for purposes of people who are watching on NUFC Matters, right, because it was you and I who started, I guess, the show on our radio channel that we were working for. You know, it was good fun, wasn't it? Well, you're a Borough fan, but you're in Australia. So how did that come about?
Yeah, no, look, it was fun. I absolutely loved being a part of it. It was something that it's only just, as we said, has now, going to be no longer, which is sad, but I've made good friends out of it, good friends that I will have for life. Not you, Ted, but you, Steve. I think we know you and I are pretty, will remain close. And look, I think it's been fantastic.
Friends for an hour at this rate, mate.
Come together like this. We share a passion for Northeast football. We all support 3 different clubs, but you can tell if you've ever listened to the radios, the banter, the mateship, you know, we can take the mickey out of each other. We can take the mickey out of each other's team, but it stops there. It's not, violent. It's not hatred or anything like that. It's just 3 mates that love football and love their teams and, just want to talk about it with each other, really.
And I think, Ted, people look at you and I in particular, the proper derby, and go, how on earth are these 2 lads ever going to get on doing a podcast? There's got to be, there's got to be a bridge too far. I mean, we had it last year. We did manage to play each other last year, which is, at this moment in time is a rare event. We got the bragging rights, obviously Northeast bragging rights, but it was weird because obviously we were on the radio, we'd become pals on the radio, and then to actually be up against each other when we didn't expect it was quite weird. But I think Ride stole the thunder, really, hasn't he? We do it in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that derby we had back in the dewy slopes of January seems like a million miles away now, and I think. I guess you kind of almost felt a bit sorry for us with the whole debacle of what went on before the actual derby itself. We may as well have named the stadium after Jackie Milburn and kind of just went the whole hog, really. But yeah, I think it was kind of the derby that wasn't for us. We like to try and forget it, but it's about the crack, it's about the banter. That's kind of why it was a success with what we did last season. And I think it's why it'll be a success again. And I think people like to join in that banter when it's placed in the right way and done in the right way. I was going to say tastefully, but we've never been into that. That's going a bit too far. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's great to be reunited with you lads. I think certainly the season for me when it petered out miserably was a bit of a dark one for me, but I'm looking forward to hopefully happier times for all 3 clubs, mate.
Yeah, don't look back in anger.
Exactly.
The best to look at it. We've got football to talk about on this, and I think we're going to keep it the same kind of format that we tend to do for our shows. We're going to do an hour. Obviously, we've got the chat there live on Rise channel and on mine. So if you've got any questions or any stuff that you want to bring up, then chuck it in. But Championship was back on Friday, but you guys were both back yesterday. Rye, you've got your you've got your fists pumping, you're in the air.
It's a long summer without football, I tell you. I don't know. It's a long summer without seeing your club. Now, obviously, we had Euros. Obviously, as an Aussie, I didn't have Euros, but you guys obviously had England. You got to the final. We all know how that ended up. You know what I mean? So we had some football in there, but it's not the same without club football, without that grassroots club football. All the, for us too, obviously, the build up, Ted's gotten a new manager. He's got no new signings. He's got half a squad. Do you know what I mean? He's got Jack Clark on one leg. Do you know what I mean? So he was worried. But Boro going in, it's all exciting, and we were pumped. We were ready to go. And when kickoff came yesterday against Swansea, mate, it was just like a dream come true. Just knowing that now football's back and we're here for the next 46, 47 weeks with cup ties, and I just can't get enough of it.
So a win yesterday for you boys. Yours had a special guest on the pitch. Somebody manager last season.
Yeah. We had Tony Mowbray coming back. He came and was in a guest appearance. It was really good to see him. He's not really done any sort of media, obviously, for those that do know Mogga, and Steve knows him well. They were train buddies. He's been obviously unwell. He's been quite sick. He had to retire pretty much from the Birmingham job. And he said that he's going to, take some time to get his health and he, spend with family, and then he'll look to go back into work. But he was there yesterday at the game, and God, it's inspirational, isn't he? He's like, a boy from Redcar that gave his all for the red and white shirt, and everyone was just tear jerking and clapping. It was just fantastic to see just him come out and just show face and give himself back to, the public again, because he's been hiding, so just getting his health right, and good on him. You know what I mean? So it's great to see him. And then that led into a kickoff, with Mutt saying, so we only had one new player in a team that was starting off pretty much the same as the end of last season. We had we had so much passion for this one, because this time last season, we were coming into a game on the first day of the season with 13, 14 new signings, a whole new team, Michael Carrick's sort of era. This season, it's exactly the same team. We've added one, but we've gotten a new contract out of Michael Carrick. We've gotten a new contract out of Riley McGree, my goat. And we're just going to play some football the way the Carrick wants to play. We came away with a 1-0 win at home at the Riverside. It was packed. It was sunny. It was glorious. And we're going to win it all.
Positive.
15,000 in, was it?
Yeah, we'll go.
This guy. Now we'll listen to about some Regis Labrie cheese or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
hey,
triple quarter. Went well.
Yeah, do you know what? That was a really, really good performance. It was encouraging. The first 10 minutes were a little bit shaky, but listen, the Cardiff fans really get behind their team. They're a noisy lot. They love their team down there, and I honestly thought I was expecting the worst out of that, because we never seem to get anything away from Cardiff City. But yeah, look, after the first 10 minutes, things settled down. I thought O'Nien, barring one incident where he tackled himself on the halfway line, that was just undescribable. But the rest of the game, Luke O'Nien was absolutely fantastic. I thought Alan Brown, the new signing from Preston, absolutely fantastic in midfield. And I think, we mentioned this, we're talking about this last season, where we massively missed Corey Evans and like that calm and mature influence in the middle of the park. I just thought Alan Brown really brought that, and he freed up that role for Job to actually be more effective as an attacking midfielder. Speaking of Job, absolutely fantastic performance from him. I'm really pleased with the kid, because he played a lot of football last season and started to get a bit of criticism for being leggy. So that was great to see him. I thought Mayenda actually ran the line really well. The young striker who was on loan at Hibs last season. Very unlucky not to get a goal out of that. Great save from the keeper when he was one-on-one. But he led the line well, like I say, created a couple of opportunities, and I think he will get goals. Patterson is as good as ever. Bear in mind, we're still missing about 6 or 7 players out that squad. It doesn't look too bad. We're obviously, miles ahead of Boro in the league position already. The goal difference is looking great. Just blow the whistle now. I think we're second in the league.
You are? I can't believe it.
Yeah, just blow the whistle. Blow it. Done. It's done. We need COVID. We need it now.
Big old game for Sunderland, that, and because it's an away game. I mean, I watched it.
Oh.
I had an afternoon of football. We'll come on to the Celtic Cup in a bit, but I decided to watch the women's game on my laptop. I stuck Sunderland on the telly, then I reverted to the Charity Shield and watching Newcastle's game in the afternoon. So it was an afternoon of football on two different devices. But I did watch the Sunderland game, and to be honest, from speaking to Sunderland fans that I know, they were expecting the worst. They were expecting to go to Cardiff, be embarrassed. You know, the summer of discontent at Sunderland seems to have got a few of my mates down. They don't rate this manager. Could this be something a bit different, Ted? Do you think do you think maybe there is sometimes when the chips are down and you think it's all going to go pear-shaped for teams like Sunderland and Newcastle in the past, they tend to surprise you, or you're not getting too carried away yet.
Look, you can only judge it on the performance. I thought that the last friendly actually was a really good performance as well against Marseille. Marseille are no mugs. They've got some real quality in the ranks there. So to pull a draw back against them, there was some positives out of that. I just think Lebris, listen, it's all about results, and if he can get 2 or 3 wins early on in the season, in the first 3 or 4 weeks, there's going to be a bit of belief about the place. And I like the way he sets the team up. I like how honest he is about where we need to improve. Yesterday, for all it was a really good solid win, 2-0 away at Cardiff. You're going to take that all day long as a start of the season. So the way he speaks is he's very pragmatic. It's kind of like he felt we attacked a bit too much, but he was very positive about the way they were doing it. But we lost the ball a couple of times, and I'm going to get laughter for this, but I'm getting Wenger vibes from him. I think he's a proper student of the game. I don't think he's going to be smashing his feet through the whiteboards like what Roy Keane used to do. But I think what you're going to get is a calm, measured approach to the game. And I've got a good feeling about him. Yes, obviously, we're going to get a win on the first day of the season. That's going to help you with that positive feeling. But there's something about him that, without a doubt, they waited a long time to appoint him. He's here now. We've got to get behind him. It looks like things off the pitch are starting to come together. All the fans are delighted, obviously, about things like the shirt, the work that's been done at the stadium to actually improve match day experience. So yeah, it has been a summer of discontent. We still haven't signed a striker. Don't get me wrong. We're not getting too carried away, but it's just signs that things are a lot better than where they were last time.
Yeah, or what you thought. John Bircham, good afternoon. He says, do you think Mika is the real deal or just another false flag ride? Glad it's not just me monitoring the goal difference on day one, he says.
Good on you to stick it to Ted, first and foremost. You're now my favourite. You win Viewer of the Day. We're giving out awards at the end. The other boys don't know that. I've just made it up, but you win. Secondly, Mackay Hamilton, what a signing. We didn't get to see him come on yesterday, 20-year-old from Man City. Absolutely incredible, an astute signing from Middlesbrough. The signings we've all had have been class. Mackay Hamilton, you scored in the Champions League last year for Man City, and to get a 20-year-old for a reported fee of around 3 million or under, to then turn that into a permanent, not a loan as well. It's an astute bit of business, and he's going to add so much class and flair to Middlesbrough when he comes in. 20 years old, obviously, you don't want to put the world on his shoulders, but I think it's an amazing coup for Middlesbrough. And I think, with Tommy Conway, which looks like that's going to happen in the next 24 hours, you hear Ted talking about not having a striker. Well, Middlesbrough, their squad's complete. Do you know what I mean? We're literally 1 or 2 away from having good depth. And there's a lot of teams out there still chasing their numbers, and I'm glad that Middlesbrough won't need to go into that deadline day worrying, because it looks like we're going to be at least literally 1 or 2 away from being done.
Okay. Newcastle obviously took part in the Celtic Cup.
Yeah, you Crystal Palace boys, you.
This is it's a strange scenario when we play this competition. Obviously, Sella, one of our sponsors, but I didn't go to the games. I decided not to go. I spent a lot of money going, obviously, my season ticket and going to away games. So I decided to skip the Celtic Cup this year. And Newcastle, played 2 completely different squads on both days. Won the first game 4-0, won yesterday 1-0, retained the Cellar Cup. We saw youngsters have a run out who haven't played. For Newcastle's first team, it was great for them to get an opportunity to play in front of 30,000 plus at the ground. Only downside, I guess, of the 2 days was that Fabian Schär limped off. Looked like an ankle sprain. Hopefully, won't be too serious. Luckily, for Newcastle, no other injuries going into next weekend's game. I think the big concern is always going to be Alexander Isak. He's just such a level above what we've got up front. But overall, I've got to be honest, I'm quite happy with the way that Newcastle's pre-season has gone. I think the trip to Japan, which some people felt was a bad idea, I think worked out well. We don't have European football this year. We don't have to worry about these kind of trips, but it's exposing Newcastle to a different market and new fans. And I think the thing that stood out about the Japan trip was that it's just the passion of the fans out there. And, it was amazing to see, hundreds of Japanese fans, word for word singing the songs and stuff. This wasn't like a sugar-coated PR stunt. It was genuine people who live in Japan who wanted to see Newcastle United. And I thought that was great. But transfer window for Newcastle, it's still open and we're still ready for business. And I think you're mentioning Crystal Palace. You're obviously referring to Mark Gahey, who has done so well in a short space of time at Palace.
So good,
done well for England. And Newcastle, again, we're led to believe from some of the media reports today, going back in with another bid. So I think they'll get him. I think reading between the lines, listening to Eddie Howe at his press conference pre-match and post-match, I genuinely think that Newcastle will sign this player. I think he will come in, and I think that's what he's referring to when he's saying you've got to go for quality sometimes rather than quantity. So I think they'll be happy if they can bring Mark Gahey in. I still think there'll be another player come through the door, but I think depending on what they spend on Gahey depends on what they spend on a right winger. And stories emanating from places this morning saying that Almiron may be staying.
Okay.
I think Murphy's pre-season form's been really good, but I think there's talk about Almiron's transfer being put on the back burner. So maybe they're happy with what they've got.
I tell you what, Stevie, and I've got to talk to you because this is like a burning to chat to you about this. Obviously, seeing Newcastle early in the transfer window having to let go of a few players to come in, obviously, into that financial fair play. Seeing the likes of Langstaff and that go. Sorry, not Langstaff, but seeing players go out the door, and then you look at Chelsea signing their 43rd keeper. I mean, the Premier League is absolutely. It's incredible to see Newcastle having to sell to come in, and obviously, I get it. The revenue, it's revenue based. Obviously, Chelsea have been doing this a lot longer. Newcastle have obviously just coming into that sort of region now, with the Adidas sponsorships and all this sort of stuff. And I get the revenue, but does it still shock you? And I mean, how upsetting is it to see Newcastle doing the right thing, balancing the books and having to let these players go, and Chelsea are out there just throwing the money around that they're throwing around? It just baffles me how the Premier League's working in these current days.
I think it's interesting, that you bring Chelsea up. Chelsea had a very cute owner in Abramovich. He came in just as John Hall and Freddie Shepherd were thinking about getting out. So he picked the right time to get into football. And that was the reason that John Hall left. And I think what he did was he certainly invested his money wisely. We all know the political situation between, Russia and Ukraine and the fact that a lot of these Russian oligarchs were, asked to leave England and he was one of them. And a lot of his money was tied up at the football club. So we don't know the full ins and outs of it, but what it looks like to me is it looks like he's been very cute in his investments. Looks like a lot of the money's been ploughed into buildings, hotels. We're not talking council houses here. We're talking Mayfair. We're talking things that are buildings that are
a magazine.
Tens of millions. We're looking at a guy here who's basically put everything in Chelsea's football club's name. So they will never be done, I don't think, for PSR or FFP problems, because literally there's just a a full portfolio of buildings that will be sold to bring in another striker. What annoyed us this week was the Man United situation where the COVID payments has been, they received COVID payments, and it's such a tangled web, and you've got to be careful what you say, but it's alleged that they could have got away with a few things which Newcastle certainly wouldn't get away with, and that's the point you're getting at. So yeah, it does upset us that we literally are playing with a straight bat, and we're not doing anything wrong. I mean, look at Everton. Everton this morning, according to the newspaper, they're going to get done again. They've got some £6.5 million mistake.
They should just give up and join the Championship.
Crazy.
But it's crazy, Ted, isn't it? It is. This FFP thing is literally it's one roof for one and one roof for another.
It is, and I mean we've had this conversation so many times about like the spiraling costs of players. Even I mean, even just what was it? The last 24 hours, Solanke has been confirmed as a Tottenham player. £65 million for a guy who's had one good season. 65 million, absolutely army prices. That, and I mean, he's not exactly bettering himself. He's gone to Spurs, so he's not exactly going to win trophies, is he? It just seems like a very, very strange move. It's the whole FFP thing. It's going to rumble on. You know my feelings on it. It's been scrapped completely until they could actually. Look, I'll redact that. Actually, either scrap it completely or just get it right and make it fair. And actually, this whole thing with Man City kicking the can down the road for another couple of months because they've got lawyers who wear more expensive suits than what Nottingham Forests do. It just doesn't sit right. And I actually expected more to come from the end of the season in the Premier League. I thought we'd actually see, maybe somebody else getting relegated because somebody else is going to have points deducted. It didn't feel like the end of the season because you had all this financial fair play rubbish rumbling on in the background.
Yeah.
It just needs either clarifying or scrapping altogether. Because, like you said, as much as I take no comfort from Newcastle doing things properly.
Nah, exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, they have done it properly. And if they do sign Guehi, I said to you, Steve, I think that'll be a fantastic signing. Because aside from Declan Rice, I thought he was England's best player in the last tournament. I really do.
He had a great Euro.
I thought he was
did have a great Euro.
Yeah, he was exceptional. Yeah. And that's the sort of player that you need. But
it's incredible to see.
Yeah, it is.
To be linked with those types of players. But just to wrap it up, honestly, Steve, obviously I've been, ever since we three came together, I keep an eye on Sunderland, I keep an eye on Newcastle, Northeast, sort of thing. And it's just incredible to see Newcastle having to sell and do the right thing. And then you've got other teams being able to just splash the cash. It just doesn't seem fair, and that needs to be balanced. And I hope that it will. But now you see Newcastle, they've done that. Now they can move for their big targets in Guay and stuff like that. And I hope, I hope that you get that done because, geez, what a centre back pairing that'd be.
I'm not upset that we lost Elliot Anderson. Look, you can't keep everybody. You've got to move players on. I'm not going to cry any tears over Minty. We never saw him play. He played in the Dutch league. We know how poor that league can be at times. Good luck to him at Brighton. That's all I'll say. Good luck to him. We'll have encouraged questions. We've got a couple coming in. Barry Hogan, I did see yours earlier, and we're not going to be on the airwaves anymore, mate. That's why we're doing once a week on our respective YouTube channels. So sadly,
Unless a radio station is looking out there going, do you know what? This format works.
Digital Raj Inc. says, which of you three has the most realistic expectations for the season ahead? So I guess we've got to find out what our expectations are. Who wants to go first?
Well,
I'll take this one.
As the only realistic one out of the championship pairing. Because he's going to say, we're going to get promoted with 200 points and all that sort of rubbish. So we're going to win every game 5-0. Yeah. But apart from the first one where you struggled against a poor Swansea side. Yes. Honestly, after the last couple of games, I think there's an outside chance of getting to the playoffs. I really do. I still think there's investment needed there. But with a full squad, Dan Ballard back, him to come back in, I honestly think we can make the playoffs. I really do. If they keep everybody fit and they invest properly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, looking at Sunderland, I was to the back end of last season. We all saw what happened with them, just to wrap this up. And I was worried for my boy Ted, honestly, going in, just because, and I said this on my stream yesterday, people were asking me going, gee, Sunderland are leading 2-0. I'm like, this shocked me because I honestly thought they might struggle. New manager again after, the third, the tumultuous past 12 months or so, but they came and performed. And and keeping Bellingham and Jack Clark is key. Is big key. You're trying to be realistic to them, you know what I mean? And they've gotten Patterson. They've now got this, is it that French striker you're looking at? That'd be a big coup for them as well. So, Look, Sunderland realistically could be top half of the table quite easily. On to Boro's expectations. It's what Michael Carrick said all along. We're going for promotion. We're going to be up in that top 2. We've spent a lot of cash. We've kept a strong squad together. We've offered Riley McGree a 4-year contract. We've given Michael a new 3-year deal. We've gone and spent the cash on Aidan Morris. We've committed Latte Lath again. Do you know what I mean? With all the transfer rumors he's had. So we're trying to keep that core together. And we're spending, big money on lesser players sort of thing, and we're trying to, it's got to be, it's got to be a promotion push. We've got to be up there. We had a shocking start to last season. We had a shocking Christmas run. But everyone, inside the club, and I believe the fan base as well, would be talking, in that top 6 somewhere. I would say, hopefully, it's in the autos, but definitely in the playoffs. And if it's honestly, if it's something less than that, then I think something's gone wrong, and we'll probably have to look into it.
Okay, you're going to think I'm mad, but I think Newcastle will be in and around the title race this season, and I think they'll finish. I think they'll finish 3rd, and I think Newcastle will win the FA Cup this year.
The FA?
You've gone balls to the wall with this, Steve.
I said before the podcast, don't drink, Steve.
Actually,
you've been at that Cypriot stuff that I bought you.
It's got a
Look, honestly, with a couple of big signings, the only thing obviously talking about Newcastle and we saw last season was if your injuries. You had the same thing as us with Middlesbrough. Newcastle had the injuries last season that really decimated your team. But this season, without Champions League, I think you've got a more relaxed schedule, and I think that's going to play a big part in being able to focus on the Premier League. Eddie Howe has committed to Newcastle. There was obviously links there with England, but I'm very excited to see what Newcastle can do. Obviously, we're Ted and I aren't in it, so go nuts. Please win the whole thing. It won't matter to us. It will matter to us, you know what I mean? Because then we'll have to hear about it. But, it just, I honestly think with a couple of shoot signings, the only worry I've got still, and if you can, maybe you can answer this, is what happens if an Isak gets injured? What happens if what happens if an Anthony Gordon gets injured? And that's questions that are up in the air because it doesn't really, it doesn't mean anything. But if you lose those types of players again, then what have we got coming through? You've got that new Sheffield United, youngster, but is he the right man to then come in and take Isak? Because you don't think he's going to be the Isak quality straight off the bat.
I genuinely think that Newcastle, the problem last season was conceding goals. We scored goals, like they were going out of fashion, and we've started the pre-season in exactly the same way. So I don't think that'll be an issue. Sula played well yesterday in the minutes that he had, scored a great goal in real time that wouldn't have been chalked offside. There was no VAR or anything yesterday. It was onside the goal. But yeah, he's going to be brought in as a the third choice striker. Wilson, I wouldn't be surprised if Wilson's on the bench at the weekend. But I think Wilson is fitter than he was. He's had that operation, and I think Newcastle will keep a hold of him now and probably let his contract run out at the end of the season. But they may do the same with Trippier. It's going to be interesting. There's been huge changes behind the scenes. I'm not even touched on it. We won't have time to touch on it today. But, Amanda Amirdad's gone. They've brought a new sporting director in Mitchell. They've got a guy in to sort the injuries out, Bunce. So there's been huge changes behind the scenes at Newcastle. So, listen, I don't think it's blind optimism. Newcastle have done well. They did well last season. They should have qualified for Europe. It was only because of the FA Cup result that didn't. And I think not having Europe is going to give them that opportunity. But you're right. I'm
going to give you one of these. I'm going to give you one of these on Mitchell as well. What? Hello, Man United.
You like him.
What? Hello, Man United. Could have you bottled that one any harder than you did? You wanted Mitchell. That was your number one target. You then go and get Dan Ashworth. And guess who gets Mitchell? Hello, Man United. My name's Ryan.
It's weird how that's worked out, like, isn't it? It's just all a bit. Yeah, it's just Man United proven to be a little bit of a circus all over again. Like it's very, very strange.
Some people think I've been drinking Buckfast for breakfast. Stephen Owen thinks I've been drinking Newcastle Brown. Davey T, a Newcastle fan, says Boro have got latte up front. Sunderland have got flat white and no sugar.
Still scored more than the Boro. Anyway.
All right, talk to me about transfers for you then, Teddy boy. Obviously, there's not been anything major. There's Jack Clark on the table potentially for Ipswich. We're waiting to see what happens there. It's died down. Bellingham we think he's not going anywhere. There was a lot of talk earlier on, but it looks like he's gone, no, I'm staying here. I'm committed to the project, which is massive. What are we looking for Sunderland in the next couple of weeks? Obviously, you've only got 2 or 3 weeks to add to that squad. Obviously, it's a striker, you're telling me, but 2 goals against Cardiff. Is that fear lessened now?
No. To be honest, great content. No. Next question.
No.
No, I would say that we still need one. The problem is when we get a 2-0 win away from home like that and strikers don't score, Christian Speakman's probably sitting in the background counting his fivers going, oh, well, we don't need one.
We're right.
That's the worry as far as I'm concerned. I think we need an experienced striker in. Obviously, if we get the lad from France playing for Caen at the minute, if we get him, that's a good bit of quality there. He's also 31 years old as well, which adds some much needed experience to it. The Jack Clark thing's very interesting. He scored a good goal yesterday. It was a typical Jack Clark goal, cutting in from the left, onto his right foot, bending it in the far corner. What he's known for, I guess. And it was a bit of, I think Cardiff will be annoyed about that because teams know how to play against Jack Clark now. The biggest thing for me, that was the biggest plus, was the fact that Paddy Roberts looks like he's back to his best. And that gives us such a bit more dynamicism. Dynamicism? Yes, that's the word. We're better on both flanks. Having like sort of that dual threat and having somebody who can take the ball past players, it was putting an awful lot of pressure on Jack Clark last season. And it was pressure that was handled very well. He got 15 goals from playing left wing, isn't too shabby at all. I just think we needed something to balance that up. I've just got a weird feeling we might just get away with this and keep him at least until January. It's the way it's looking. It's all gone quiet. You forget as well. He picked up that injury towards the end of last season down at Birmingham City, where it was, I don't know whether it was like a fracture in his foot, but anyway, he came back from that at the end of the season. He didn't look his best at all. He struggled, to be honest with you. I think the only goals he got were penalties. And I just think that made a couple of teams kind of go, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. He's not going to go to another championship club. That's a given because nobody in the championship, maybe bar Leeds, can afford him. I know Leeds had to sell an awful lot of stuff though in the summer as well. So it's a Premier League move, if any. And I kind of look at the Premier League teams and go, well, who needs them? Ipswich, yes, possibly they love to go for forward players. They buy everyone they can. So that's the only one I can see. And if it's 23 million, look, it's 23 million, and then we've got to sell him. And you look at the likes of Mundell and people like that coming through. We have to unearth another Jack Clark. We can't keep these players forever. Similarly with Dennis Serkin. Dennis Serkin started yesterday. Amazing how much we missed him last season. A good player who can make the step up to Premier League. We've got to get used to the fact that potentially we're going to have to live life without these players and replace them. But yeah, it's all about money, and we know we're not going to spend big. That's the only issue. There's a couple of signs made. I'm very, very happy with the one about Alan Brown. I've already mentioned him once. But just to bring that experience in, somebody who's had 10 seasons in the Championship, a good, solid player as well. And listen, let's hold on to a couple of the young lads. I think, Jack Clark, it's 50-50 whether he goes or whether he stays. But Job, very encouraging to see him yesterday. And I think he'll be around for another season or two,
Yeah.
Chris Riggs as well. I mean, he signed his contracts. Newcastle were hovering around trying to sign him on. What are you expecting from him this season? A bit more first team play?
Yeah, I think we will, Steve. I think he will get a lot more action. I think Lebris is kind of one of these who will maybe look to rotate the squad a little bit. He was known for that in France, certainly. I want to see Rig get more time. I was surprised and obviously very, very happy that he did sign the contract. He seems to have made Sunderland his home. We know that his family has ties to them up the road, of course. And yeah, listen, it wasn't just Newcastle in for him. We know that. It was the likes of Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool. We're all taking a look at him because he's got the ability to go and do that. And he's a player that for 17 years old plays like he's been in the game for years. At the decent level that he is. And yeah, listen, he's a one for the future still. Like I say, 17 years old, but what he's shown so far is just tenacity and tackling. He's got bite about his game. He's an old head on young shoulders, I think, and they're very, very rare to find them. I make the comparison with the likes of Jordan Henderson. Maybe there's a little bit of Steven Gerrard about him as well as a young player. I'm not saying he's the complete article yet, but I think he's got the ability to go a very long way in the game, and I think it's important that we keep players like that and help them develop, and obviously it helps us develop as well.
Yeah.
The Pompey Leeds game was a proper humbling, by the way. 3-3, wasn't it?
Wow, incredible. Sammy Silvera out on loan from Boro, the Aussie that I got to announce for the club last season. I'm watching Pompey a little bit closer now, just because Steve hates him as well. Ted hates him as well. So it drives it up a little bit more. But yeah, seeing that game yesterday, obviously, watched the highlights afterwards, and what a game. I mean, Leeds, coming off that playoff defeat, do you know what I mean? They're hurting. They've lost a couple, they've lost both their wingers, they're hurting. Do you know what I mean? And to see Pompey coming up from League One into the Championship to push a team like Leeds, it just shows you the strength of the Championship. Derby on the Friday night, obviously coming up as well. They lost to Blackburn in a 4-2 game there as well. But there's goals, do you know what I mean? And it's incredible to see Portsmouth back in the Championship after, was it 12 years or something? It's been a long time since obviously they went down and had those, that financial stuff. So it's going to be interesting, the Championship this season, because it's the glory of it. It's just like the Premier League, isn't it? You don't know how those teams, the crazy thing with the Championship is we've got teams that come down from the top, we've got teams that come up from the bottom. And last season, the team that came up from the bottom was Ipswich, and they went through and blasted everyone and then went through again, sort of thing. So we've got this crazy balance of finding each other out for the next few weeks, because we've got teams that have been relegated that are going to probably, have still got Premier League teams, and we've got teams that are on a winning high coming up from League One. And you just sort of find that out, where the Premier League, you kind of expect that the three teams coming up are going to struggle, and then that's it, and then you got the top 6, top 7 now that are just going to battle it out, where the Championship is just about finding each other out. And last night we saw that with Leeds and Portsmouth.
Yeah, we did. Barry Hogan, who used to listen to us on a morning, he has posted a question earlier. He says, guys, we were once known for great strikers coming from all three Northeast clubs. Why do you think all clubs are struggling to find a homegrown striking star? Surely they are out there somewhere. Ted, we don't find them in the bushes anymore.
It's a bit like Mayfair. God, I was just going to go down a whole line there, and I'm not going to do it. Do you know what, Barry? It's a great question, mate. And I think we have to blame the likes of Mourinho and Pep Guardiola for this, because it's not just us. I think teams play without strikers a lot more now. It's this whole, the false nine is being probably the death of the natural striker. I think it's why why England kind of huffed and puffed a little bit in the Euros as well. There's not ready-made replacements. And the strikers actually play in a completely different way now as well. Even if you have somebody who's classed as a striker, you tend to see them dropping deeper. They're more involved in link-up play now. So yeah, we don't see them. You're absolutely right to point it out. And I think because of the changing systems and playing more of a tiki-taka rather than a wiki-waka, that's part of the reason why it happens. I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong, because we do need that. We absolutely do need that. The days of Gary Rowell for us, and obviously Shearer for the Geordies. I can't remember. Did Boro ever have a decent striker?
Bernie Slater.
Bernie. I think he works on a radio station somewhere. I think Brian Clough. Obviously, Brian Clough. There's an absolute monster of a striker that he was. Those days are going, and it is a bit of a shame, because there's nothing better than seeing a local lad banging the goals in for fun. We had the likes of Craig Russell over the years and people like that who are not prolific strikers, but it's great to see when it does happen, and we do miss it. And hopefully, with that academy in full swing at our place, maybe we might just unearth a hidden gem somewhere along the lines.
Right, I would say probably Sunderland went down the same kind of route as Newcastle, especially when they were in the Premier League, of buying foreign talent. There was that kind of explosion of bringing people in, and you just got to look at the likes of Ravanelli, I guess. Newcastle went with Patrick Kluivert. There's some strange signings in our history, but is there any local lads, do you think, coming through?
It's a great question, and Middlesbrough have always touted themselves on their academy. We've seen lots of our players come through the academy. We've got the likes of Hayden Hackney at the moment. In terms of the striking department, we've got Josh Coburn right now. Josh Coburn, who they're putting the world on his shoulders as the backup at the moment to Latte Lath without anyone coming through the door. So, it's a great question, but are we seeing them hit the graces that we saw with other homegrown? It takes a lot longer for these younger kids these days, and it's a different game. It's a faster paced game. It's a different mentality. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to it than putting on your football boots now. Do you know what I mean? There's the science behind it and everything like that. And I think it's just different now. And these kids need time. And I hate to say it, but I'm waiting still to see the 19-year-old wonder kid come in and just blow everyone's socks off, because it's a gradual thing. Even with Hayden Hackney. Hayden Hackney was fantastic, but it was over a couple of months that we start to see Hayden Hackney grow into this player, and he's a homegrown talent in our midfield that we would probably number one on the team sheet now. The likes of Josh Coburn is probably the same, and he's had some injuries and stuff like that, but homegrown talent is still very important to our three clubs, because we're a northeast. We're diehard in the northeast of England. Do you know what I mean? It's all football right from when and it's all you talk about. It's all you live and breathe. So to have homegrown talent is so important, because that's what feeds our three clubs. You know what I mean? When you've got these silly financial fair plays, and you've got the inevitability of finding a Jack Clark and then losing him for 23 million, to have the likes of us with Latte Lath, who's been here 6 months or so scoring like crazy, and now he's already been linked with all these other clubs. It's just the nature of our teams that we get good talent, and then it just goes. So to have those those local grown talents that want to play for our clubs and stick and go through to the end, it's essential. And I think we will find a couple definitely coming.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Newcastle have had a few over the years, like False Dawns, probably Paul Brayson probably springs to mind, had a great Northern League career, absolutely superb. Michael Chopra, there's another one who could have, I know. I knew you would like that one.
There.
I knew you'd like that one. But
I dry heaved when you said it. It's like,
he didn't do anything. Niall Ranger,
yes,
another big disappointment at Newcastle, who should have come through and done well. Andy Carroll made us a lot of money. He had one good season in the promotion season, but injury prone, and so we've had loads. But I mean,
we got midfielders. We got lots of midfielders. One's got Lewis Miley, the other one's got Chris Rigg. We've got Hayden Hackney. So if you're talking midfielders, we're fine.
Yeah, 100%. It's maybe it's something that they're doing in training, it's schools and that kind of level. But it'll change. I'm sure it will. Thank you, Sean. He says, love this three-way club chat. It's like turning the clock back to the three legends on radio. This show should become a weekly event. Well, that's the plan. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
We are going to do weekly. And Davey, who's a Newcastle fan, says, first time doing the show, you've got to keep it going. Great banter. And surprisingly, a lot of common sense. He was definitely looking at Rye there when he said that.
From this half.
Maybe common, but no
That's
sense.
why they put Steve in the middle for a reason. That guy.
Yeah.
I'd mind that gap right. Yeah.
It's like that. 2 years apart. Jake Curtin says Mark Gahey is starting for Palace today. They play Nantes at 3 o'clock. Was hoping he was going to be too busy signing for us. So there you go.
There you go.
Taking over.
I still wouldn't rule it out. I still wouldn't
Yeah.
rule it out.
No, me neither.
Nah.
And Barry asking another question. He said, "Did I hear the rumor that the Scousers would accept 25 to 30 million for Bobby Clark? Would you bring him home?" Just listen. I'd love to see Bobby Clark at Newcastle.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have been allowed to leave. I just don't see where he'd fit in, lads. At Newcastle, we're talking about midfielders. We're top heavy in the midfield. You know, I mean, you can name Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, Bruno. You've got Joe Linton. You've got Longstaff. You've got Tonali. You've got Miley. We've got both Mileys. You know, the list is literally endless. Lewis Hall, who we spoke about loads on the show last year, in every friendly game, more or less, has been played as a holding defensive midfield player. So Bobby Clark, I can't see him coming back, Ted. And I mean,
maybe he could fulfill the prophecy though, Steve, and sign for Newcastle and then eventually sign for Sunderland like where his dad did and just keep him away from daft t-shirts.
That's it, yeah.
Clarky, if you are watching, like I still love you. I still love you. Even though your dress sense was shocking.
I can't see Bobby Clark coming back, right? I don't think Newcastle would be looking at that either.
No, I don't think so. And as you said, I think you're just too stacked. It just wouldn't make sense. I don't think Bobby Clark comes into Newcastle right now and makes the team. Do you know what I mean? The first team with the depth that you've got. You know, it's an interesting week. You're leading up to your first game. Premier League kicks off by this time next week when we're doing it. You would have played. You know, I think Saturday or Sunday kickoff. Saturday. Yeah. So you know, it's a big week for Newcastle. Will they get Mark Gay and will they sign anyone else? I think you're pretty well set. You know, if you get Mark in, do you put the checkbook away? I'm not too sure. You'll know better. I know Trippier's being linked to West Ham now. You know, so that's outgoings might determine the incomings and all that sort of stuff, like we always say. But you know, I think Newcastle aren't after a Bobby Clark right now. Again, homegrown. You're always going to talk about it, aren't you? And I'm sure people at the club, I know our recruitment staff always say if they're from Middlesbrough, we're always going to have a look. It's the same for Newcastle and Sunderland. If there's a Sunderland or Newcastle player out there doing well for someone else, you're always knowing about it because it's always talking about it in the community, in the football club and stuff like that. So yeah, watch this space. But at the moment, I can't see a Bobby Clark coming into Newcastle. It just doesn't make sense right now.
Danny Boyd says, "Is Longstaff good enough though? He's not the next level you Geordie boys need." Unfortunately, he gets a lot of stick. He's a very good holding midfield player. He's very like Scott McTominay for Manchester United, who Newcastle are constantly linked with. I don't think he's any better. But Longstaff is one of Eddie's most trusted players. You hear it every time he talks about him. And he scores goals. He might not score a half goal, but he'll score goals at important times. My team next week, I still think he'll play Pope in goal. A lot now depends on whether Fabian Schär's injured. I'd be very surprised if he plays Trippier right back with Livramento playing the whole pre-season. I would imagine Livramento would feel hard done by as well. Left back's going to be interesting. Is he going to play Kelly and give him his debut? I think Lewis Hall's done enough to deserve a starting place, and I would play him left back. Hopefully Fabian Schär's fit and he'll play Dan Burn and Fabian Schär alongside each other. But if he doesn't play Fabian Schär, I think he'll play Emil Kraft because he's never let him down, and that's who we finished with at the back end of last season. It's centre-half. I don't think you put Kelly in at centre-half. Midfield, I think, picks itself. I think Longstaff definitely plays alongside Bruno and Joe Linton. That makes you three in the middle. I think left-hand side of the pitch will be Anthony Gordon. Right-hand side of the pitch, purely because of his goal-scoring performances and the way that he's played in pre-season, will be Jacob Murphy. And up front, it's going to be Alexander Isak. That's your starting 11 next week. If Eddie Howe surprises me, I can only imagine that it'll be giving somebody a start that we never expected. I don't think he'd play Lewis Hall midfield. I can't see how he can with the players available. People are saying, what about Joe Willock? Well, I think Joe Willock will be on the bench if he's fit. He's got to be fit. So, and Peter is asking, would I start Lewis Hall in midfield first game against Southampton? He's done enough to start. I would play him at left back. And we've said it already. It's academic. Injuries will happen. Things will happen during the season that we'll never know. what's ahead. But there will be big changes, I'm sure, and Lewis will make a chance in midfield. I want to talk a little bit about Mowbray. You mentioned him earlier on digital.
Yeah.
As said, they're good to see Tony Mowbray up and about yesterday. He looked well, right?
He
really did look well.
He did, and he spoke well as well, and it was inspirational. Do you know what I mean? To see a legend of your club come back after a big hiatus. We were talking about it towards the end of last season, weren't we? Together, hoping you as well. And had anyone heard anything? We had Bernie Saban coming out and say, I've spoken to him. He's doing well. He's in high spirits, but we just don't. You just didn't see it. We saw the Birmingham announcement where he was stood down and he's got to focus on his health and family and. It's this thing where you don't want to pry, do you? It's when it comes to health and family and all of that sort of stuff, take as much time as you need. But in the back of your head, you're going, geez, I hope he's all right, because you just don't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, kick off of the season, and there's your the absolute one of the most amazing characters that's ever come out of Middlesbrough in Mowbray, standing there saying that, I'm doing well. I'm just a boy from Redcar that loved playing in the red and white, and it's a tearjerker. It's a fantastic moment to see with his family there. A local boy that's back, and he looks strong. He looks well. He looks fit. I hope that he gets a job soon. I'm sure he won't be out of work too long. Mogga's too good of a manager and too good of a man to not keep a job. But maybe it's something that he's not looking at because of his health still. We just don't know. But to see him prior to the match was fantastic. It's better than looking over Sunderland and seeing Ravanelli there.
Yeah. Davey T, Ted, come to you on this. He says the Toon Stadium issue is always there, stay or go. So bearing in mind the moves from Ersam and Roker Park, is it a good thing? So, how did you feel when they talked about leaving Roker Park, and how do you feel now?
It's always an emotive one, because obviously I went to Roker Park first of all. That's where I started following Sunderland. I was mascot there, so I will always feel an affiliation with the place. Nothing stays the same forever. I don't think this is going to be controversial. I don't think the atmosphere is as good at the Stadium of Light. I think the small, older grounds, as a rule, always generated much more noise anyway. Yeah, listen, sometimes it's got to be done. I think, we're still tinkering with the stadium now to kind of get the best out of it in terms of, making that a bit more intimidating a place to go. You look at the places like Southampton's old ground, the Dell, where it was just like a Sabutio ground. The stands are right on the pitch there, and it just created that bit more vibe. And yeah, I think we're always going to miss that, to be honest with you. It's just one of those things where progress has to happen, unfortunately. And it does take a little bit of getting used to. I still love the Stadium of Light. I still get a buzz every time I go there and walking in, and just, that sort of lowered bowl where the pitch is. And I still get a buzz out of walking into a place. It is home. I love the ground completely. But yeah, you're always going to hanker after that original ground, because that's unbeatable. And anyone who's moved to a new stadium, ask Arsenal fans what it's been like since they moved from Highbury to the Emirates. It's not the same. Fantastic places to go and play football and go and watch football, but it's just not that traditional feel that we all grew up loving.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a bit unfair asking you. I mean, you did get an opportunity to come over and watch a Boro game when you were younger, but just from an emotional attachment as a fan, some people saying, David McLeod saying, not really a fair comparison, both Roker and Ersam Park were falling a bit. Ersam Park was anyway.
Yeah, exactly. David's hit the nail on the head. I mean, to see smaller stadiums where you get a better atmosphere. We saw that in pre-season when you travel to Harrogate Town and stuff like that, where they're right up in your face, and it's this lower league sort of ground. You watch it with Hartlepool, just up north from us, sort of thing. So these types of grounds and facilities are bygone, because it's just futuristic. We spoke about last season, didn't we? All I think one of our most common topics was digital ticketing. You know what I mean? It's the way that it's moving. It's digital ticketing. It's digital this. It's digital that. Phones and platforms, and the stadiums are moving in that technical region. I saw a question earlier: was there VAR in the Championship? There's not. But you can guarantee in a couple of years, probably it's going to be, sort of thing. And these older stadiums, will start to have VAR introduced, which is more money and technology again. So, yeah, it's look, Roker Park and Ersam Park were falling apart. I mean, we saw, pictures. They were old. They were run down. And we both as football clubs trying to succeed, you got to remember at the end of the day, football clubs are also businesses, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? They are a business. They have to stay afloat, and to do that, ticket sales, people in the door having a good experience is part of that package. And being part of that package, you have to have a brilliant, well-maintained, hello Man United, home stadium.
Got about 5 minutes.
To them today, mind.
I am.
He always does. So we've got 5 minutes left, lads, of our very first show. Carabao Cup this week for
yes,
Leeds against Boro. Rice. We'll come to you first. Leeds versus Middlesbrough. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. We saw Leeds obviously drawing 3-3 yesterday, so they're going to leak some goals, but they're also potent in attack. We saw a well dug in 1-0 win and victory by Middlesbrough. I dare say Carrick rotates a little bit. We've got the likes of Mackay Hamilton and all that sort of stuff that didn't feature at all. Carrick only made a couple of substitutions late and sort of left it as is. So whether those guys, continue or not, I don't think so. But it's a tough ask. Leeds United are expecting to go up first or second in the championship. So it's a real test to see where we're at. It's not going to be an easy run. We had a touch wood. I mean, I will admit it now. Last season, our Carabao Cup run was amazing. We ended up going down to Chelsea, but we had a bit of an easier run heading in. Well, this time, if we go through, get past Leeds on Wednesday, then it's going to be a big job. But I'm up for it. I think we've got the squad and we've got the talent now to match it with Leeds, because if we're talking promotion, we're talking being higher into the table. These are the teams we have to match it against.
Okay, Preston against Sunderland, Ted, which is your Carabao Cup game. You play first, of course. So how do you see that turning out?
Let's go out in the first round and get on with the league. Honestly, doesn't interest me this season.
Preston is shocking, though.
Well, yeah. I never like to jinx it. I'm not going to slate the team that we're going to play in a couple of nights' time. Because when the tonk us 3-0, because we'll put when we'll put the under 16s out to play games.
True, he rotates.
I wouldn't be I don't think we'll see a big rotation from Regis Labrise, to be honest with you. I think he'll want to have that starting 11 gel a little bit more. So I think if everybody has come through that, we've got the likes of Ekwa, who didn't get on the matchday squad at the weekend, but we'll be looking to kind of get back into fitness as well. So maybe a couple of subtle changes. But honestly, I want to be out of the cups as soon as humanly possible and crack on with the league. That's got to be the focus. You just don't want too many games. We know what it's like. I'm forever the optimist. I'm getting oh, Stephen, honestly, I'm just a realist. I know, obviously, we love cup games. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to be drawn against the Max again, to be honest.
No, bring it on. Bring it on.
Get us out.
All right, that's your cup games. You both got games at the weekend, as have Newcastle. Our Premier League season kicks off. Derby have got a tough game against Middlesbrough coming up at the weekend on Saturday, Rice. So give us your prediction for that one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We watched on Friday night them getting beaten by Blackburn 4-2. Look, they looked a little bit threatening going forward, but in defence they looked shocking. And Derby have got a lot of negativity around them at the moment. Have they made the right signings coming to championship? They don't want to bounce straight back down. But as a team, like I keep saying, we've spoken all pre-season about targeting promotion. These are the teams we need to beat. It's going to be obviously a backup. We're going to have a midweek game against Leeds, so you're going to have to see some rotation. But with the likes of Mackay Hamilton coming in, hopefully Tommy Conway from Bristol, which is the rumour at the moment that's bubbling away pretty close. That's another very, very astute sounding striker signing. So hopefully we got the squad now to rotate. Touch wood, we don't have the injuries. And then we should be beating teams like Derby. Obviously it's away from home, won't be at the Riverside. But look, I'm expecting an easier victory for Middlesbrough going into next weekend.
Okay, Newcastle play Southampton, first game of the season. I think Newcastle will go nap. I really do. I think they're going to go for goals, and I think Isak will be the man. I think it'll be a Premier League hat-trick for Isak in the first game of the season. He's going to set down the gauntlet for Haaland with the top goal scorer trophy on offer this season. I'm going to go for a 5-1 win for Newcastle. If Mark Gahey doesn't sign, I think if Mark Gahey does sign, he'll make his debut and we'll keep a clean sheet. It'll be 5-0.
Wow.
So Sunderland are at home on the Sunday. 12 o'clock kickoff, one of those awful kickoff times. Sky Sports game. But yeah, they're playing Sheffield Wednesday. So what's your prediction for that one, Ted?
Yes, sorry, Chef Wed Kev. You're not going to like this. If you'd asked me about 3 weeks ago, I would have been really, really not looking forward to this one. I think Danny Roll obviously signed that new contract. They've made some really good signings.
They have.
They've spent.
They have.
I actually genuinely think that Chef Wed will actually be up there in the playoffs, in and around there by the end of the season.
100% agree.
They're a good side. They play good football. I just think, just with that little bit of bounce of confidence, depends how the cup game goes, of course. But I just think with that little bounce of confidence, I think we'll sneak a win, and I think we'll get a 2-1 win. I also think I do genuinely think the Mags will destroy Southampton. But I think Ross Stewart will get on the score sheet just to rub it in a little bit. if he can stay fit long enough. You know?
Is that before or after he sings Maggie May? Good afternoon, millennials.
We've got to mention about their away kit, which is absolutely horrific as well, Steve. That you sent now a little WhatsApp chat. Dear me, that is awful. Awful.
Wow.
Well, that's it, lads. First show over. People are asking when we're going to do it. Barry was saying when we're going to do it. I think it suits us to do it on a Sunday. Obviously, fixtures pending for most people. Yeah. So we'll be chatting backwards and forwards in the WhatsApp group and we'll come up with a time. But Sunday seems to be the best day. We'll just have to work it around people's availability. But yeah, we are going to do it once a week. So thank you for tuning in. Lots of lovely comments.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for the Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough fans for tuning in as well in their numbers. Lads, take care. See you next week.
See you next week.
See you later.